Welcome. Today we are diving deep into the economic system that basically built America. We're talking about American free enterprise. We're going to break down what it is, how it works, and why it all started with a really simple and honestly a pretty frustrating question.
To really get why this matters, let me ask you something. Have you ever had that feeling where you put in all the hours, you did all the hard work, and at the end of the day you watch someone else walk away with the lion's share of the reward? It's a tough pill to swallow, right? Well, that exact feeling is where our story begins.
So here's how we're going to unpack this. First, we're going to look at the unfair system that got everything started. Then we'll jump to a national emergency that really forced a big change. After that, we'll break down the 5 pillars that became the solution. And finally, we'll tie it all together to see the big picture.
Okay, let's rewind the clock. Way back, before the United States was even a country, the system running the show was called Mercantilism. And the rules were pretty simple. Make the king, who was thousands of miles away, as rich as possible. The colonies were basically his personal piggy bank.
Here's a really easy way to get your head around it. Okay, picture this. You spend your entire weekend mowing lawns. You work hard and you make $100. Nice. But then the king shows up. He takes 60 of your dollars right off the top. And then he tells you that the $40 you have left, you can only spend it at his store, where everything is overpriced. That, in a nutshell, was mercantilism.
So you can see how this created a huge problem. On one side, you have the colonists, actually growing things, building things, creating real value. But on the other side, the whole system was rigged to suck that value across the ocean and right into the king's treasury. They weren't building a future for themselves. They were just padding someone else's bottom line.
Now, as you can imagine, that kind of unfairness eventually boiled over into the American Revolution. But here's the twist. Winning the war and gaining political freedom, that actually wasn't enough. It took another huge crisis to force America to finally stand on its own 2 feet economically.
See, even after winning independence back in 1783, America was still buying almost all of its tools, its clothes, its finished goods from England. They were still dependent. But then came the War of 1812. The British Navy set up a massive blockade of all American ports. Suddenly, nothing could get in and nothing could get out. It was a complete economic shutdown, a real emergency.
And that blockade sparked a huge aha moment. People realized that being politically free didn't mean a whole lot if you were still economically dependent on someone else. America had to stop being just a vending machine for England, putting in raw materials and getting back finished goods. It was time to start building their own factories.
So right out of the chaos of that crisis, a whole new system started to take shape. And it was built on 5 core ideas, or pillars, if you will, that were all designed to do one thing: shift the power away from some distant king and put it into the hands of the individual.
And here they are. These are the 5 pillars of the American free enterprise system. You can think of this as the blueprint for a totally new kind of economic engine. So let's go through them one by one and see how they work.
First up, we've got the profit motive. This is so fundamental. It answers the most basic question. Why on earth would anyone go through all the stress and hard work of starting a business? Well, the answer is pretty simple: for the reward you get to keep.
Just think about this birdhouse example. Let's say it costs you $20 for the wood. If you sell it for $20, you've basically just done a lot of work for free. But if you sell it for $30, that extra $10, that's your profit. That's your reward. That's what puts food on the table. It's the motive. Without it, why would you even bother?
Okay, pillar number 2 is entrepreneurship. And this is all about taking a huge gamble. We're talking about people who didn't just want a safe, steady job. They were willing to risk it all: their house, their life savings, everything on a brand new idea. That incredible risk is what fuels the potential reward of creating jobs, building something new, and earning that profit.
And that brings us right to our 3rd pillar: private property. This is such a simple but powerful idea. Just think about the difference between a pencil the school gives you versus a nice pen you bought with your own money. Which one do you take better care of? The one you own, right? It's human nature. When you own something, you have an incentive to protect it, to improve it, because the reward is all yours.
Pillar number 4 is competition. Now, this is what keeps everyone honest. It's like a built-in quality control system that works in your favor as the customer. If there's only one store in town, a monopoly, they can sell you rotten apples for $10 because where else are you going to go? But the second a new store opens up selling fresh apples for $1, that first store has a choice: get better or go out of business. Competition drives quality up and prices down.
And the fifth and final pillar puts all the power right back in your hands. It's called consumer choice. The idea here is that every single dollar you spend is like casting a vote. It's a dollar vote for the kind of company, the kind of product you want to see succeed.
Think about that for a second. In this system, you, the consumer, are the ultimate judge and jury. Your decisions, every day, are what determines which businesses grow and which ones disappear. That wallet in your pocket holds a tremendous amount of power.
All right, so let's zoom out. What happens when you take all 5 of these pillars, profit motive, entrepreneurship, private property, competition, and consumer choice, and you put them all together and just let them run?
Well, the secret ingredient that made it all work was a philosophy called laissez-faire. It's a French term that basically means let it be or hands off. The idea was for the government to take a step back, to protect people's rights, sure, but otherwise to get out of the way and let these 5 pillars do their thing.
And the result of all this? It was a complete transformation. The country went from being that vending machine for a distant king to becoming a place where regular people could become the masters of their own factories, their own farms, their own economic destinies.
Which brings us all the way back to right now, and back to you. Because this system is still running, and those dollar votes, they're being cast every single second of every day. Every coffee you buy, every movie you stream, every brand you choose, that's you voting. So the question I'll leave you with is this. What kind of business and what kind of world will your dollar vote for today?